taken at the West Highland Police Station, 1984. You were there.
Same model.
These were taken today.
You have to let me see my son. He's in great danger.
New mission. Once, he was programmed to destroy the future.
You don't know what it's like to try to kill one of these things.
Now, his mission
Get down.
is to protect it.
Come with me if you want to live.
You're really real.
His loyalty is to a child.
Who sent you?
You did. 35 years from now.
And his enemy
He's a Terminator like you, right?
Not like me.
is the deadliest machine ever built.
Can it be destroyed?
Unknown.
This time, there are two. Terminator 2.
You just can't go around killing people.
Why?
If you thought you had seen it all, look again.
Stay down!
Go! Now!
We gotta stick together!
Arnold Schwarzenegger. Terminator 2, Judgment Day. This time, he's back. For good.
Trust me.
Hello, welcome to Movie Umpers. My name is Bob Sham.
I'm Angela.
The sounds you hear may be dogs or nuclear fire wiping us all away. Do you think the machines would make Terminators that look like bucket hats with GQ branding on them? As I'm wearing right now, what if I'm wearing a Terminator? What a funny bit. I'll take that on the road. Some bullshit tomorrow are dystopian and apocalyptic futures. And we started the month off talking about James Cameron's The Terminator. And now we're here on the last stretch, the last leg to talk about the sequel. But first, let me tell you about our next theme. We are going to that old continent where a lot of our ancestors come from, at least the white ones, right? And where back in the day, we all smelled like balls, but everyone stunk, so no one really paid attention. But now we're going back. I don't know where I'm going with that. We're going to Europe. It's a European vacation all September long. All the movies we're watching are from throughout Europe. And let me be transparent here. What inspired that topic for that month was when I was going through a lot of the DVDs. I separated the ones that I needed to watch. I realized that a lot of European movies. It's basically a lot of movies I have that I've been needing to watch for a long time that happen to be European. So why not take a European vacation all September long? That's what we're going to do.
Sounds good to me.
French movies, a couple Norwegian movies, a couple German movies. Yeah, and a lot of those movies are studios coming together from other countries. That's how they do it over there. Ain't no English language next month. Today, we're in the last leg of Some Bullshit Tomorrow. We discuss the iconic sequel to Terminator. Terminator 2, Judgment Day from 1991. Directed by James Cameron, written by James Cameron and William Wisher, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger, Linda Hamilton, Robert Patrick, Edward Furlong, Joe Morton, cinematography by Adam Greenberg. This movie cost around $100 million. And it made around $520 million. It was a massive hit in 1991. I'm pretty sure I went to the theater at least a couple times to see this. I believe I was in Chicago visiting my mother for the summer when I saw this movie.
Don't think I saw this in the theater. We didn't go out to the movies a lot when I was a kid, but we watched this movie all the time at my house.
On VHS. We all had the VHS of this, right?
Yes.
And
we actually had the VHS of this. My dad did a lot of taping things from the video store. We owned Terminator 2.
At some point, by the late 90s, you could probably find the tape of this for like $2 in a bin somewhere at a Hollywood Video. That's how I acquired a lot of VHS back in the day. This movie was everywhere. It was a massive hit, and I can see why, because I love this movie. It's one of the greatest action movies of all time. And we're not going to like bit by bit it. this should be, if you haven't seen this, you should see it. I don't think you need to watch the first Terminator to get it out, to get a lot out of here.
You don't.
But there's a lot of callbacks and cues that would do hit a little.
It's better.
If you're aware. It is a little better, but it's still a great movie on its own.
Yeah.
Which is speaks to the power of the movie.
When I was a kid, we didn't watch the first Terminator a bunch either. I barely remembered it. When we watched the first Terminator, when we started dating, I wasn't even sure exactly what happened in it, other than Sarah Connor met John Connor's dad. This movie...
Come on, this movie
It's so good.
We talk about a lot of different kind of movies. I love my classic noir. We talk about movies that are very deep and philosophical and with rich dialogues. But for me, I would put James Cameron amongst other directors in terms of one of the all-time greats. Not necessarily because he hits everything. He often gets criticized for flat characters like in Avatar and stuff. And Avatar has its issues, but I kind of like those movies too. But James Cameron just knows what you want to see, right? He can distill it into this package that will make you go to the movies. Even now, where it seems like not enough people go to the movies, he can still put out some CGI movie, a second Avatar, and it still makes $1 billion internationally. Titanic. My grandma saw that movie in the theater 3 times. With Terminator 2, he's like, we know what every little child and every bro dude wants to see. And then after that, he was like, this one's for the grandmas. And everybody's grandma went to go see Titanic. The man is a genius. He is one of the greats, the one that understands the spectacle of it all and how to distill it into something that everyone wants.
The one thing you can always say about James Cameron, if you want to see what is the most cutting edge effects of that time, watch a James Cameron movie. The effects in this movie...
Still great.
So good.
I mean, you can tell there's a little datedness to it, but it's fine. It's still good. It
doesn't matter. It's so good.
And then what's even better than that to me is the action itself, the stunts, the chases.
The
all
chases
that shit
are
is cool.
Great.
James Cameron he's the inventive guy that somebody like an Elon Musk thinks he is. And people who just blindly hate on James Cameron, he's a game changer. It's like he's making movies for people 20 years into the future every time he makes a fucking movie.
The characters in this one are really good. The relationships are really good. They're real. When people are shitty to each other, you understand why. Sarah Connor's closed off and you get it. This kid has a real connection with a fucking Terminator, and it's believable.
I think out of a lot of James Cameron movies, the way the characters are dealt with here and represented and how they interconnect is amongst his best.
It really is.
But we watched the extended version on this old dated DVD that made a lot of noise when we stuck it into our cheap DVD player. The thing that is different from the extended version, there's things about it that I liked and things that I maybe didn't. The Kyle Reese scene when Sarah Connor's in the mental institution and she sees Kyle Reese, that was cut out of the theatrical release.
Remember, I was like, I don't remember this part.
I don't know if I actually like that scene because it makes her seem crazy. And I was watching that scene. She
has vivid dreams. I thought it was a dream, but still, I know. I didn't like it, and I didn't remember it.
An extended part that I did like was when they restarted the chip in his head and opened him up.
Yeah.
And I actually like that because it explains why the Terminator character who's protecting the young John Connor seems to socially adapt to lingo and interactions and stuff, but not enough to understand why people are crying or emotions. But I actually really like that scene. It explained how he's changing a little going forward. Skynet seems to want the Terminators to look human, but not learn too much like a human would learn. They have their set programming.
They don't want them to make their own decisions, even though they were built by a sentient robot.
And another thing of the extended version, it was hard to remember what I was forgetting, what I was remembering. But the parts where after the T-1000, the liquid Terminator gets frozen in liquid nitrogen and gets shot and he comes back, where we see him warping and like blending with shit, that's extended cut shit. They cut all that out in the theatrical release. I like that too.
And you get the moment where John looks at Sarah and says, if you're not even going to listen to me, why would anybody ever listen to me?
So 2 Terminators have been sent back this time. But the guys in the future, John Connor, managed to get a hold of the T-101, Model 101, which is the Arnold version, and they reprogram him to protect John Connor. He sends him back to protect himself because Skynet has sent a new model, a prototype model, in the past. And some things that repeat here is that this T-1000 is played by Robert Patrick in probably the best role he's ever done.
Mm-hmm.
Fucking amazing here. Robert Patrick immediately comes across, the T-1000 immediately comes across a cop. Just like how Arnold stole the police car in Terminator, he embodies the police, and Cameron did this on purpose.
Yeah, and not only took the car, he is a policeman.
He looks like a cop for the whole rest
it.
of the movie. Yeah, so, and God, I can't say enough how good Robert Patrick is in this movie. It's not like a character that's you can relate to, but his coldness, his scariness, it's so there.
He is an amazing villain.
And so Sarah Connor is in a mental hospital, and little John Connor is played by Edward Furlong, who's very tech savvy. He can crack into...
His voice has not changed yet.
Right? He thinks his mom's just crazy, and who wouldn't, right? He's with his foster family. But then these Terminators start to converge, start to ask questions. The guy who played Bobby Budnick in the old Nickelodeon show Salute Your Shorts lies to the T-1000.
Do you know this guy? Nah, I don't know.
And he saved the future with that lie. Lying to the police saved the future here. And that, because he would have grabbed John Connor right there if he came across him. But John is able to get away. He's being chased by this cop. He doesn't know it's a Terminator. It just looks like a cop coming after him. He's kind of used to that. They're on a dirt bike. And it's this crazy scene where they're going through the LA canals, and the big semi trucks always popping up in these Terminator movies. And they're chasing him, and then here comes Arnold after he's stolen some biker's clothes.
Also, love that scene where he goes into the biker bar completely naked, and all the ladies are like, ooh, ooh.
Well, he walks into the biker bar, and they're playing Dwight Yoakam. Which will draw me
amazing.
In. Of course, this is 91, so Yoakam was peak hot at this time. But when Arnold does get the biker's gear and glasses, then that song Bad to the Bone plays. The George Thorogood version.
I'm okay with it.
I think that's one of the corniest fucking songs ever. It's based upon an old blues song. I'm not talking about the old blues song.
Yeah.
But that George Thorogood, dad boner, like blues rock. Yeah, after he gets the bike and stuff, he goes to rescue John Connor in a killer action scene. He pulls John off the bike, manages to escape from the T-1000. So they stop later, and that's when the Terminator explains what he is.
So what's the deal?
My mission is to protect you.
Yeah? Who sent you?
You did. 35 years from now, you reprogrammed me to be your protector here, in this time.
This is deep.
And John's like, my mother is not crazy, so they have to go rescue his mother. Sarah's having visions from an apocalypse, and one of the most memorable scenes in the movie is when she's dreaming of standing by a chain link fence and getting decimated by nuclear fire. It's very frightening and vivid in your memory.
It is. It's such a good visual representation of the desperation that she feels, because in this vision, this dream that she has every single night, she is screaming at the top of her lungs trying to save all of these children, and no one can hear her.
And she is so hardened, right? She's trained her son about half his life, taking him all around to different guys, different boyfriends who have tought her, combat shit and all this stuff. Fairly certain that the in monologue at the end of Terminator 1, she explains that there was supposed to be a nuclear war a few years after 1984, like alluding that it was going to happen sometime near the end of the 80s. And I swear she said it was delayed. Now, one flaw here in terms of time logic is that she seems to know the exact day where the next nuclear fire will attack. How?
I can only assume it's another vision, but we never see that. I was trying to decide how she knew that.
I think that's just a flawed concept. Yeah. They did delay the nuclear war, and the nuclear war will happen again. That can be explained by the other Terminators that we see coming back. But she seems to know the exact day in like 1997 or something. My guess here is that the story, it maybe ignores the idea in the last movie that the nuclear war was delayed and pretty much pretends that this was always going to be the date. The concept of T2 almost seems like it's just moved the date up and pretending like that was the date the whole time. They go to get Sarah out of the hospital. She's halfway there fucking people up. There's an orderly there that's a total creep, and she like knocks him out and beats him. So as she's trying to escape on her own, then it's a pretty great scene where the elevator opens and she sees the T-101 come out of the elevator, freaks the fuck out. It's pretty. Linda Hamilton is amazing in this
She's
movie.
Amazing. She is such a fucking badass, but to flip so quickly.
Yeah.
Because the second she sees
you would
him,
freak
she
out.
crumbles and starts scurrying backwards. It's amazing.
And then John Connor, her son, shows up and calms the situation down, and it's very confusing, but they manage to escape from there.
And he says to her,
"Come with me if you want to live."
So they go off to a place to stock up on weapons and shit, and then they realize that in order to stop what's going on, they're going to have to go to this guy who's a programmer who works for what will become Skynet, and they're going to have to probably kill this guy and destroy his work as it's going, because apparently this guy is going to develop these self-driving automations that are going to end up becoming AI that rule and destroy the planet.
she tries to leave John with the Terminator because she can see that the Terminator will always protect him. And she tries to go basically on what is probably a suicide mission to kill this man.
It's really sweet because she's observing the Terminator and her son together, and she's realizing that this like robot that can't feel feelings is actually a better father than anybody who tried to step into that role in his whole life.
It's so good. I want a Terminator.
So she ends up taking off without them. The Terminator will essentially do anything that John says, even if the Terminator explains that it's pretty logical what she's doing.
And very illogical to follow her.
And she goes to this dude's house, and who's played by Joe Morton. Very underrated role here, especially to a point that I'll get to in a little bit. He's just a man. He's got this family, and Sarah just starts open fire on this dude's house. It's pretty scary here, right? Well, Sarah manages to clip this guy. He gets shot, and she goes in the house, and she's going to execute him with his kids there, and she can't do it. And then the Terminator and John Connor show up. They explain, in a really cool scene, John Connor says to the Terminator,
Sean.
and he has the Terminator cut and pull the skin off his hands. And he recognizes the hand because the hand of the first Terminator that Sarah Connor killed in the first movie is in a fucking lab with the cracked chip they got out of his head. That convinces Dr. Tyson, and they go to Skynet and they break in, and there's a whole rigmarole where they get all the shit. But the police come, and now in the first Terminator movie, Arnold fucking kills like 30 cops. Young John Connor, he's trying to teach the Terminator that life is precious and he shouldn't just be killing willy-nilly. So Arnold, instead of killing the cops, like just blows up all with a Gatling gun, and it's awesome as shit. Just blows up all their machines and like steals their tear gas guns and blasts it at the
He
cops.
shoots off so many kneecaps in this movie.
Yeah. It's so funny when he's like, don't kill them. And he's like, okay. And he just starts shooting people in the legs.
He'll live.
The doctor, Tyson, gets shot up when police just pop open the door and they just light him up and he's holding the trigger. Maybe one of the best death scenes I've ever seen in a movie.
1000%.
Joe Morton deserves a lot more credit here. He's really good in this movie. Gas himself until he's just gone. Joe Morton kills it. This guy, I need to look for what other things he's in, but just in this small role he had here, he did so good. And I don't feel like, as much as people talked about this movie, that not enough people talked about what he brought into that scene right there.
You get to see him earlier in the story being so excited about what he is discovering and building because he has no idea. As soon as they tell him,
He starts trashing all his work.
He says, it's all done. I don't care.
He's
it's
like,
all gone.
He explains, like, we're going to have to go in here and destroy everything.
I spent so much time on it, but you know what? It's not fucking worth it.
So he dies, but everyone else, and Sarah takes a shot too. She's injured as well, but they managed to lose the T-1000 for a while going to Mexico and stuff. But if they can figure out where they need to go to change the future, the T-1000 can too.
He's one step behind them.
So yeah, this is all kinds of, the T-1000 steals a helicopter to track them. Then he steals another truck with liquid nitrogen in it. They go to some kind of metal refining where there's molten metal. The T-1000 is dipped in liquid nitrogen after they crash the truck. And then you got the one-liners.
Hasta la vista, baby.
You know, this T-1000 is kicking everybody's ass all across the refinery. There's one little inconsistencies where he's torturing Sarah after John is running around escaping and he's saying, call for your son, when he could just emulate the voice the whole time and does like a minute later in the scene, you know. But he's fucking up the T-101 and the T-101 looks like it might be out and then it barely comes back online with reserve power, and it's got this gun that just shoots grenades, and right when it looks like it's just fucking curtains for everyone, Arnold Terminator shows up and blasts him with a grenade. It blows him apart and it's warped him up, and the T-1000 falls into the lava. But this thing is so fucking tough. He doesn't melt immediately. You see him transforming into all the different people that he emulated, including John's foster parents, who he fucking killed. And then the T-1000 is destroyed. They throw the hand in the lava. They throw the chip in the lava. But all the evidence isn't gone because they have a Terminator with a chip in his head standing right next to him. And you thought you were going to watch a fun action movie? No, you're watching Cyborg Old Yeller now, because he has the Terminator. He can't self-terminate, but he can stand on the chains while Sarah Connor lowers him into the molten metal.
I know now why you cry. But it's something I can never do.
And you see the hand thumbs up as he goes into the molten lava. Terminator 2 Judgment Day from 1991, directed by James Cameron, who I will always be a bit of an apologist for. I mean, he's made such great action movies that if he made something that was just total dog shit, it wouldn't be enough to undo anything, right? We're going to give this 1 through 5 each, combined for best out of 10. This is not quite our last Some Bullshit Tomorrow movie. Our next Lars von Trier movie, which we're discussing a dozen von Trier movies before the end of the year. We have one at the end of this week that happens to work with our theme, Melancholia. So technically that's the end of Some Bullshit Tomorrow, but this one is more of the punctuation piece. Yeah. Terminator 2, what do you give it?
5.
Also go to 5. This is one of the greatest American action movies of all time.
Of all time. It is better than I even remembered.
Absolutely. I loved it as a kid.
Loved it.
When I watched it as an adult, I was like, oh.
Blown away.
I knew this was good. No, this is top tier,
It is
great, 5 stars.
Amazing.
This is what this is the best version of a certain type of American filmmaking.
Yes.
Peep this. It is an S tier. One of those rare moments where a sequel beats its predecessor. Terminator 2 Judgment Day by James Cameron from 1991 sits in the S tiers between Tangerine by Sean Baker and The Battle of Algiers by Guillaume Pontecorvo. A very different kind of movie, but as good as those movies, if not better. That just about does it. Again, Melancholia is technically a Some Bullshit Tomorrow movie, but also goes with our overall yearly theme. And after the end of this week, European vacation. So we'll see you soon, and then we'll see you in Europe, okay? Check the show notes for links, other places to find us. Like, subscribe, leave a comment. Tell us how great you think Terminator 2 is. I don't think I've ever heard anyone say that this movie sucks.
I don't know them.
Come on, this movie is awesome.
You're wrong.
It's
If
great.
you think this movie's bad, you're wrong.
American classic, Terminator 2. All right, but let's get the fuck out of here.
See you tomorrow.